Hello and happy holidays. I'm going to be giving or providing the economic report for forestry for 2020. I want to start by thanking our authors as well as our contributing author, Stuart West. Without their partnership, we could not do these reports annually. So for 2020, we're reporting an estimated total economic output of 13.2 billion. And if we look at the direct output, that would be at 9.1 billion. If we look here on the chart to the right, we can see that there's a lot of variability across our industry for 2020. Logging and primary wood manufacturing both have dropped about 1.4%, as well as paper manufacturing, close to 1.7%. The one bright spot here is that secondary manufacturing has seen an uptick of almost 2.5%. That improvement in with the secondary wood industry offsets all the losses that we've had with the other sectors. However, even within the secondary wood manufacturing, there's a lot of variability inside that one subsector. We always like to show this map. It allows us to illustrate how diverse our industry is in terms of across the state and all the rural areas that it impacts. We currently have 671 industries. Those are identified industries in our state in 112 counties. We probably could identify in all 120, if we could find them, but we know of at least 671. There are 3,000 master loggers in our state as well. And the shade of green in each individual county illustrates the density of those master loggers. Factors affecting the forest sector. Well, for one, again, I've already mentioned it, but we have a lot of variability across the industry. Oak exports declined in 2020. COVID has been a big concern, not only with trying to keep, a healthy workforce in the state and not shutting down any of our mills, but also how it's impacting global economies that we sell a lot of our wood product to. We was fortunate that the governor did not issued that forestry or the forest industry was an essential industry, and we didn't have to shut down back in the spring. But it still has had a big impact on our industry. And we currently have a shortage of log supply. That's a big concern, as well as a closure of a paper mill just outside of Kentucky in Bristol, Tennessee. The closing of that mill is impacting residual removal from our sawmills in eastern Kentucky, as well as low-grade timber sales. Barrel demand did remain good throughout 2020, as well as railroad ties. Now here's a bar chart that shows hardwood sawlog production for our state in 2020. And you can see that we're down about 1.5% or 1.4% from 2019. Now, one of the things impacting those low numbers in the primary industry is housing starts. Much of our wood products that go into, or much of our wood products is sold into new housing. And so as new housing goes, so does our industry. And you can see here in 2020, we've had a fairly significant decline. This graph here shows delivered log prices. Now, if we showed the prices for all of our delivered logs, it would just get very congested and confusing. So we've pulled out two species to look at, white oak and red oak. And they're really interesting species to look at, because if you look back here in 2006, you can see red oak actually sold or had a higher value than what white oak did. White oak being the gray line here, red oak being the red line. And if we look at it today, white oak is more than double red oak. Now, one thing I will point out here, this graph is not perfectly reflecting what we're seeing in the red oak market here in the last few months. We've actually seen somewhat of an uptick in red oak, and this graph is a little bit delayed, not showing it, mainly because we're looking at year to year, not month to month. Now here's a bar chart that shows from June of 2018 to October 2020. It shows hardwood lumber prices. Let me rephrase that. It shows green hardwood lumber prices since June 18 of 2020 until October 2020. And we can see here real quick that red oak has done very well since 2018. The walnut's done real well as well, including white oak is kind of holding its own, up 6%. Overall, we've seen price increases of about 2% across the board on average. Now this graph here is red and white oak green lumber prices from the same time period. And the yellow line here is white oak, and the red line here is red oak. And again, we're kind of using this chart to kind of show this latest uptick in red oak prices. So you can see here from, say, August up to October, we've seen quite a bit of an increase in the price of red oak. So we're really hoping that continues. Now, if we forecast log and lumber prices out through 2021, we think stumpage prices are going to improve due to log shortages. We think we've already seen a little bit of improvement. We think that's going to continue throughout 2020, and again, mainly due to just log shortages. That's log shortages is due to the market. The stumpage price has been so low the last few years that it's really drove a shortage up and slowly starting to improve stumpage prices. Black walnut should continue to do well through 2021, and we are a little bit worried about sawmill production. It could fall a little bit due to the mills just not getting the log volumes that they need. Now, one thing that's really got us concerned is we've seen a closure of a paper mill in Bristol, Tennessee, Northeast Tennessee, and we have much or a lot chip mill and low grade material that come from Eastern Kentucky and flow into that plant. And so we're really concerned about that. That could have a negative impact on low grade timber sales, as well as sawmill's ability to remove the residuals. In addition, it's going to impact the landowner's ability to use best management practices in the woods. So we're really concerned about this. We already had a terrible market for low grade lumber and logs, and now that's only going to get worse with the closure of this mill, unfortunately. Now, we say closure, it's not really a closure. They're revamping their production. They're going to make a different product, but all the input's going to be recycled now instead of raw wood. So it's not going to help us at all in terms of our industry here in the state. Now, if we take a quick look at tie logs, we can see where we started out in 2008, where we're at today, just a continual improvement. However, we can see here from 2019 to 2020, we can see a slight decline or slight softening in prices for oak ties, okay? And we think that's going to continue through 2021, a softening of the market, but there'll still be good sales, strong sales. CCX is still replacing railroad ties in the big project they had going on. However, we do see that it's coming to an end slowly. So eventually, probably, in 2021, it looks like they may have that project pretty much wrapped up. They'll still be replacing ties though. So we still think the market will be decent moving forward. Now, white oak stave logs, let's take a quick look at barrel production. Kind of like the tie logs, the stave logs, you can see where it started here in 2011 and where it is today. It's more than doubled in value. And we think that trend is going to continue. There's not going to be anything slow that down, we don't think. So the demand should continue, should be real strong through 2021. And we should see an increased production in staves as well as cooperage here in the state, just because we've had so many new stave mills and cooperage mills start up in recent years here in Kentucky. Now, let's take a look at exports real quick. 2020 exports are actually down 20% compared to 2019. If we look right here at the same time frame, September to September, from 2019 to 2020, we can see that in 2019 we was at 260 million in exports, and now we're down to 209. And again, these are wood products exports out of Kentucky. This pie chart breaks down those products and what we're shipping overseas. You can see wooden casks or barrels, wood barrels, white oak barrels are by far our leading export wood product, followed behind by oak lumber. And you can see here's where all that loss is for our exports. It's all in oak lumber. Matter of fact, it's down 22% in total. And here's just a bar chart that kind of illustrates that even further, the reduction in oak lumber exports through September 2020. Here we are in 2019 in September, we're 50 million. And now here in September in 2020, we're all the way down to 39 million. Now, a lot of this loss is is due to China's sluggish market, as well as COVID. COVID is a big reason why globally, the economy is down, and we're just not able to export as much as we were a year ago or even 2 years ago. Hopefully, with the lifting of the tariffs, as well as getting COVID out of the way, these economies will recover, and we'll get a lot of that back. Now, we always like to show this, and again, I want to say that we kind of use some speculative math here to come up with these values. So, but the idea here is still sound. So, if we start with $1,000 of stumpage value, and by the time that material moves through all the different operations, logging, sawmill and chipping, secondary, and even the residues that's produced from the main manufacturing, all that added value is going to equal to about 22 or 23 times the initial value that we started with. And the key point to this is all this value added will be local value added. Nearly all these materials are processed within miles of where they're harvested. So that's definitely a positive thing for the state. So wrapping this up, in summary, looking our outlook through 2021, we think there's going to continue to be a lot of variability across our industry. We're concerned about the shortage of logs, especially going into the winter for sawmills. We think that could have a negative impact on production, as well as log and lumber prices. Now, the good thing about this is that the shortage is probably going to raise log and lumber prices. That could be a positive for landowners. It could improve stumpage values quite a bit. White oak demand will continue throughout the year. Matter of fact, will probably increase. Tie logs should hold their own throughout the year. And as I said earlier, we're going to be very concerned about what happens to our low grade markets and these sawmills, their ability to remove the residuals from their production with that closure of that Bristol mill. So we're going to be watching that pretty closely, and hopefully that won't be as bad as we think. And then all eyes are going to be on COVID. If we globally can solve this COVID issue, get some of these markets strong again, like in China and Europe, with the lifting of the tariffs, we can see those exports really improve.